During World War II, the United States Coast Guard was integrated with the Navy. They painted all the ships gray, and they literally wore out some of the ships they had. So a few of them were sunk. At the end of the war, the Navy had an abundance of ships. The Coast Guard needed ships, so the Navy gave them several of this class and several other classes of ships also. This ship was acquired by the Coast Guard in November 1946, and since then they've used it and used it and used it, and in many cases where newer, specially built craft for the Coast Guard couldn't meet their obligations, somebody would pick up the phone and say, call the Tamaroa. They'll go, and they did. And they kept putting off the idea of, you know, when are we going to get rid of that thing? And somebody said, well, maybe we better not. Since 1961, it's been known as the only Coast Guard submarine. This ship actually sank. March 1961, it was up at a shipyard in Brooklyn, New York. It was in dry dock, and they had holes cut in the side, repairing machinery and so forth. And some unhappy, disgruntled young man, sometime during the night, he went down into the dry dock and opened up a drain valve, and then turned around and got back into his bed. Somebody noticed that the ship was beginning to list to the starboard side, and they said, what is wrong? And they said, oh my gosh, the ship is sinking.
What kind of restoration period are we looking at?
We're looking at World War II, prior to, well, 1945, 44, 45.
Like it was during the Battle of Iwo Jima?
Yes. If we had what we need, we could be finished in 2 months. Easy, easy. On this particular ship, this is not original, this overhang. It's something the Coast Guard put on at some time, and we're probably going to leave it because it works out very good. It gives us a certain amount of shelter. Money is, well, to coin an old phrase, is the root of all evil. But without money, it's almost impossible to do the things you need to do. There's just so much generosity out there in the industrial world. Funding, that is a major part of it, but we also working with trying to acquire volunteers, and then supplies and equipment and things like that we need to maintain our caretaker status, if you will. Welcome to the pilot house of the bridge on the good ship Zuni Tamaroa. This is a result of our recent restoration. The Coast Guard took the original equipment off, modernized it back in the 80s. We acquired the original equipment, not original to this ship, but original to sister ships. And we recently finished reinstalling it. When we're finished with it, it will be electrically and electronically compatible with the modern equipment that the Coast Guard put on, which is right here. The Coast Guard removed this type of equipment, and they put this in its place. The Navy built 67 of these ships. And they were all named after Native American Indian tribes. It's a matter of getting all the parts and the ship and the people and the money together in the same place at the same time. This is engineering main control, and you had somebody down here all the time while the ship is in operation. This particular switchboard from this point on down to here, this is what makes the ship go. And this is the equipment that indicates what speed and whether you want to go ahead or astern. These are Cleveland 12 278As, and I'm sure they've been overhauled a gazillion times, but they still do their job. Still do their job. We seldom ran all 4 engines at the same time. You always tried to keep one as a spare, and about every 8 or 12 hours, you would start up the spare and shut another one down. So you made sure that all 4 of your engines were operable all the time. Okay, we're gonna go out and down. You know, these ships were built to be to be shot up and used and so forth. And you know, here it is 60-some years later, and we're still trying to justify its existence. During the Battle of Iwo Jima, she ran aground, and she was almost abandoned by the Navy. And at that time, the Navy needed every ship they could get their hands on for the impending invasion of Japan. So they made the decision to make some temporary repairs and pull her off the beach, and then they took it and rebuilt her. So it's had a series of, it's like the proverbial cat, it's had many, many lives. So we're here to see that she gets one more life.